So we're going to go ahead and get started with anatomy and physiology questions for the MBLEx. That's the Massage and Bodywork Licensing exam. For those of you who are students currently or have already finished your massage programs and you want some extra practice going through some potential massage and bodywork questions. Okay, so introduction. So my journey through passing the MBLEx. So real quick, I'm going to recap. If you already saw the video from last week where we went over what could potentially be your weakest topics for the MBLEx, I went through a complete study guide of what you absolutely need to know. I explained that I'm kind of a fidgety ADHD kind of person. I need to be actively doing things while I'm learning physically, or I just like kind of go bonkers. Like my body just can't, like I feel like physical pain in my body if I have to sit in a classroom. I learn much better through like actively doing things and listening to conversations. So what I did in order to study for the MBLEx exam was I listened to podcasts and listened to videos on YouTube from Jody Scholes and the other MBLEx test prep guy. And I listened to those two, and that's what helped to prepare me. In addition to everything that I was learning, I was still a massage student when I took the exam. I still had about a month left of the program when I went and took and passed the exam. I took a string of buses to the nearest city. It took all day. It was 100 miles to the nearest testing center. So I took a string of buses and got there and took the same string of buses back with so much relief that I passed. It was a really challenging exam, and I can say that I think I did a pretty thorough job studying, and I did my very best in school. And I think that that's just the case for everybody, that the exam is just hard for everyone because of the way that the intelligence of the exam is set up so that it becomes increasingly challenging. So when you go to take your exam, if you say, yeah, that sucked, it was really hard, that's the way it's supposed to be. They really want to get a good idea of how prepared people are statistically to become body workers eventually. So these questions are going to be set up when I go through these anatomy and physiology questions. They're going to be set up in the style of the MBLEx question, which is multiple choice, A, B, C, D. None of the questions, according to the Federation of State Massage Therapy Boards, none of the questions can be none of the above. I think I did create some practice tests, and you can access them in the description below. There's a free practice test, 100 question practice test that you can access down there. And I think like one of them, because I have collected over 1,000 MBLEx questions, I did have at least a couple that were like none of the above. Whoopsies. But it's just, it's fun because you practice on the questions and you learn a lot through it. It's kind of a back end way of studying. Instead of cracking open a book and reading everything you need to know, you're like trying to access the information from the back of your brain and bringing it forward, which commits it to a longer term memory. So that's why we practice these questions. That's one of the ways that I studied, because I'm not an open a book kind of person. Really, I'm like, I need to be actively playing games or listening to something. So what you're gonna get from this webinar today, also podcast for when I set that up on my Buzzsprout feed, what you're gonna get is you're going to get some practice in anatomy and physiology. Like I said, pulling information up from the back and going over it again. So you're going to learn just as much from the wrong answers as you are from the correct answers, because we're going to talk about all of that as we go. Let's see, what do we have next? So just a quick we're just going to go quickly over the content of the MBLEx, which is 3 main sections, and that's like 7 categories in those 3 main sections. The first category is the first section is like the anatomy and physiology and kinesiology, which is like the basic healthcare worker stuff that you need to know, like the nuts and bolts of why things work the way that they do. And the second section is what you need to know as a body worker, massage therapist, body worker. And the third section is all about ethics and conducting business, being a productive employee or running a business on your own. The folks at the Federation of State Massage Therapy Boards wanted you to be successful when you received your license, to be able to continue helping people in the future. So basic healthcare worker knowledge, there's a list that's laid out. It's a study guide that's laid out by the Federation of State Massage Therapy Boards. And yeah, so everything you need to know, all the body systems of anatomy and physiology. So system structure and system function. So I'm going to circle that. System structure and system function that you need to know. And then tissue injury and repair. That's the inflammatory stages of inflammation and how the body fixes itself. And then concepts of energetic anatomy, which is like, I don't know. I don't know if I would stick that in with anatomy, but it's like the concepts of Chinese medicine and Ayurveda. And then kinesiology, we're going to be going over that probably in the next video that I'll be posting in the following week. And then for the professional manual practitioner concepts, we've got pathology, contraindications, benefits and effects of soft tissue manipulation, client assessment, and then I call this the nuanced business and social etiquette. How to be a good worker and how to have good ethics. But yes, anatomy and physiology is what we're going to be focusing on. So for you people who are watching on the video, you can just read those off, what my little slide says for all the different body systems that we're going to be working on. But for podcast audio listeners, the 11 body systems are cardiovascular, digestive, endocrine, skeletal, integumentary, respiratory, reproductive, urinary, nervous, lymphatic, the sensory systems, plus tissue injury and repair, and energetic anatomy. So those are all the things that you need to know a lot about, the structure and the function. Now, in the study guide that I read from the Federation of State Massage Therapy Boards, it has a list of, you pay $35 and you can find out exactly what you need to know and what you don't need to know. So it has a list of the things that they want you to know under each body system, and it also lists, like, you don't have to go crazy in depth. You're not going to be an anatomist, right? You're not training to be a physician. You're training to be a body worker. So you have to know some basic stuff. It's like a year of anatomy and physiology that you're taking in your massage education. So you do need to know all the basic stuff kind of well, but you don't have to go too in depth. So let's just go ahead and go forward with this study guide here. Oh, this coffee's so good. And we'll find out a little bit more. So I have this slideshow study guide. And if you want all of this same information that I'm going over to like read off of a page so that you can like reference it easily, you can go to the link in the description of this video or of this podcast and go to a free study guide that I've created. It has exactly this information. All right. So go check that out, and then you'll know exactly what you need to know for each system. Cardiovascular system, the structure and the function. Okay. A little bit more about that. The digestive system, the structure and the function. Okay. Endocrine system, hormones, roles of the hypothalamus and pituitary glands, integumentary system, lymphatic system, understanding the functions of the lymphatic system for the whole organism, role of leukocytes and where they're produced, nervous system. Now this is a big full one, right? Understanding the functions of the nervous system for the whole organism, central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, automatic, somatic, parasympathetic, and sympathetic. Need to know where all the major plexuses are. Plexuses are. Needs to understand how reflexes work. Skeletal system. So you do need to know all the major bones. And you need to know the anatomy of the bones. You need to know why we have bones, right? Respiratory system, a little bit more simplified. So the functions of the respiratory system, locations of all the organs, and how alveoli work with hemoglobin. Reproductive system, so location and structures, physiological changes during puberty, menstruation, and pregnancy, on and on. Urinary system, a lot of it's about how the urinary system regulates blood pressure, but we also need to know the structure and function of the nephron, and on and on. So I don't want to spend too much time on this stuff, but yeah, like I said, go to the study guide if you want to get into greater detail, or check out my previous video, what could be your weakest topic. Then in that I go completely over everything with the anatomy and physiology. And then energetic anatomy. Oh, wait, I'm gonna go back here. For the sensory system, so cranial nerves, you need to know all your cranial nerves and how the sensory system works for like all the senses. So like vision, smelling, tasting. So you need to know how the sensory system detects and processes all of that stuff, but not too crazy detail. So yeah, energetic anatomy. So ki or chi and energy in the body, how that works. Major meridians, yin yang, polarity. You need to know the chakras. If you've been around on the planet, you probably, if you've hung around in college towns or natural food stores enough, you probably might already know all this stuff well enough to pass the MBLEx. There's only, for the whole thing, here's the thing. For the entirety of the MBLEx, which is 100 questions, you're only going to get approximately 11 that are specifically dedicated to anatomy and physiology. So if you just completely flunked anatomy and physiology specifically, you're still going to like pass the exam with flying colors. But the thing is that anatomy and physiology bleeds over into other sections, so it's good to know as much as you can. But if you totally flunk energetic anatomy, you're going to be okay. And then, I guess we're getting started. Here we go. First question. Now, let me just give a disclaimer that I composed this slideshow several weeks ago, and I don't remember most of the answers to these questions or how I'm even going to talk through them. But the thing is, we're learning together, correct? Right? So we'll learn together, we'll figure this out, and it's going to be really great. So the first question is about the nervous system. How many pairs of spinal nerves are there in the body? How many pairs of spinal nerves are in the human body, right? A, 12 pairs. B, 21 pairs. C, 31 pairs. Or D, 41 pairs. Now, before we go on to finding out the answer, we're going to use some reasoning to figure out which of these options it could not be, right? That really helps us. So if we think of spinal nerves, the spinal nerves are coming out from between each of the vertebrae, right? And we think about how many vertebrae there are. So there's 7 cervical, there's 12 thoracic, and there are 5 lumbar. I hope that I'm correct with that. Please comment whether or not, well, maybe I turned off comments. Anyway, Well, keep it to yourself then. Note to yourself that I'm wrong, and this will reinforce how right you are if I am wrong about that. So we got 7 plus 12 is 19 plus 5 is 24. And if there are nerve roots that come out between every set of vertebrae, that would be 24, right? I'm gonna shrink this. And I'm gonna go ahead and look how many vertebrae are there. $33. Oh my gosh, I forgot about the sacral and the coccygeal. So there's 33. Okay, so let's go back to the slideshow. No, thank you. Back to the slideshow, expand. Okay, 33. We're learning in between each of those, and we have one sticking out on each side. It can't be 12, right? It can't be 21. It can't be 41. All right. So what have we got here? Answer is C, 31 pairs of spinal nerves. And there's a little image there that shows you what they look like. We forgot about the sacral and coccygeal. There's one coccygeal spinal nerve. There are 5 sacral, 5 lumbar, 12 thoracic, 8 cervical. All right, moving on to the next question. The lymphatic system. Which structure in the lymphatic system is responsible for filtering lymph and housing immune cells? Which structure in the lymphatic system is responsible for filtering lymph and housing immune cells? I don't remember, but let's go through. Filtering lymph and housing immune cells. Which of these filters lymph? Does the thymus filter lymph? What does the thymus do? What does the spleen do? I don't know if the spleen filters lymph. I'm gonna have to look that up. And we have lymph nodes, which I think does filter lymph and house immune cells. Then we have the tonsils. I wonder if the tonsils have lymph. The tonsils lymph nodes? What do you think? What do you think? I don't think the thymus would be housing or filtering lymph, and I don't think the spleen would. So it's either C or D. And so real quick, I'm gonna go over here and find out about tonsils. How about, do tonsils have lymph nodes? Yeah, tonsils are lymph nodes. So this is interesting because the MBLEx exam will ask you questions where they want you to identify the best option, because there might be 2 that are really close, right? So my guess would be lymph nodes, C, lymph nodes. Because they filter lymph and they house the immune cells are in there. But specifically, tonsils are also a lymph node that hang down in the back of your throat. Let's find out what lymph nodes was the answer for this. And so we've got the structure of a lymph node here in this image, how the lymph flows through, and any nasties get captured in there, and the white blood cells do what they need to do. The explanation says lymph nodes are small bean-shaped structures located along lymphatic vessels that filter lymph and house immune cells, such as lymphocytes and macrophages. These cells help detect and respond to pathogens, preventing them from spreading through the body. But what I want to do is I want to look up what is the function of the thymus. The function of the thymus is to produce mature T lymphocytes, which are crucial white blood cells and play a key role in the body's immune system by fighting infections. So the thymus creates a specific kind of white blood cells, okay? So it houses a specific kind of white blood cells. It's considered a primary lymphoid organ. It makes T cells from bone marrow and matures them into functional T cells. Does the thymus filter lymph? Nope. The thymus does not filter lymph. Does the spleen? No, the spleen filters blood, not lymph. All right, there we go. So we learned a little bit more. Does the spleen house white blood cells? Yes, the spleen does have lymphocytes and macrophages. Okay, so we learned some things. Here we go. Moving on. Integumentary system, that's your skin and your mucous membranes. Which type of connective tissue is responsible for storing energy and insulating the body? Here's the question again. Which type of connective tissue is responsible for storing energy and insulating the body? Storing energy. We're picking apart this question, looking for the important aspects of it, right? Connective tissue stores energy and insulates the body. We've got dense connective tissue, areolar connective tissue, adipose tissue, and cartilage. Cartilage, does that store energy and insulate the body? I don't think so. Cartilage is that stuff, that squishy, rubbery stuff between the bones, or between the, like in the joints, between where the bones come together. So I know that's not it. Areolar connective tissue and dense connective tissue, I'm not sure what that is. Adipose tissue, I know what that is. Adipose is fat. So I know that fat stores energy, and I know that fat's a great insulator, right? Because that's why so many like whales and seals and polar bears have a lot of fat on them so that they can stay warm. So I do know that I do know some things about those, but what are dense connective tissue and areolar? DNC, connective function. Let's look at that. Supports, protects, and stabilizes other tissues and organs in the body. It's made up of collagen and fibroblasts. So, dense connective tissue is a supportive tissue for like muscles and basically muscles and organs. Okay, and then let's look up areolar. Areolar connective tissue functions primarily to support and protect organs by holding them in place, attaching epithelial tissue to underlying structures, and providing a pathway for nutrient and waste exchange between tissues due to its loose gel-like matrix. It also plays a role in tissue repair and defense against foreign substances by containing immune cells like white blood cells. So it supports and protects organs. Okay, so didn't say that it has structural support, nutrient diffusion, and immune response, but nothing about energy storage or insulation. Okay, so I'm going with C, adipose tissue. Well, we're 3 for 3 with C right now. There it is, adipose tissue. Adipose tissue is a type of loose connective tissue that stores energy in the form of fat, provides insulation to help maintain body temperature, and cushions and protects the organs. Other connective tissues, like dense connective tissue that are in tendons and ligaments, there we go, provide structural support, while cartilage offers flexibility and strength, and areolar tissue acts as a binding and packing material in the body. Okie dokie. So moving on to our next question, which is about the digestive system. Which process involves wave-like muscle contractions to move food through the digestive tract? Wave-like muscle contractions to move food through the digestive tract. It's a process. Process, wave-like muscle contractions, moving food through the digestive tract. So these are the main pieces of information that we've been given, all right? It's a process. We've got digestion. Digestion, moving through the digestive tract. Yeah, that sounds like the whole thing that happens. Digestion is the whole thing that happens. Absorption, which is B. B is absorption. A is digestion. B is absorption. C is peristalsis. And D is segmentation. So I'm going to go over that again. A is digestion. B is absorption. C is peristalsis. And D is segmentation. So I got ahead of myself. I was already going through and trying to figure out what it wasn't. A, digestion. That's the whole thing that happens. That's the big package, right? From the time that you put something in your mouth until the time that you expel it at the other end, that's digestion. B is absorption, which is the process of getting the nutrients out, right? C, peristalsis, is where muscles contract and the stuff that's in your digestive system gets squished and pushed around. And D is segmentation. I'm not sure what segmentation is, so let's just look up segmentation real quick. Yes, we're doing that. We're looking everything up because we can, and we're learning right now. It's a process of dividing large group into smaller groups. Let's do that in digestion. An involuntary muscle movement in the digestive system that mixes the food in the intestines. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look for the best answer because it looks like any of these could work to a degree, maybe not so much absorption, right? Wave-like muscle contractions. Segmentation is like, but it's not moving the food through, it's mixing it up, right? That's segmentation. Digestion is the whole thing that happens. And then peristalsis is the muscle contractions that move food forward. So I'm going to go with C. By elimination, I figure it's probably C. Yep. The answer is C. 4 for 4 on C. Here we go. Peristalsis refers to the wave-like muscle contractions that propel food through the digestive tract, starting in the esophagus and continuing through the stomach and intestines. This process ensures the forward movement of food and waste, unlike segmentation, which involves localized contractions for mixing and breakdown. Coffee, so good. Okay, the next question. Which blood vessel carries oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart? Okay, I'm going to ask this question again. Which blood vessel is a term, right? Important piece of information. Blood vessel takes oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart. Okay. I think that this one's going to be tricky. Okay, but let's just listen to our options. A, pulmonary vein. B, pulmonary artery. C, aorta. D, superior vena cava. So I'm thinking that we can immediately eliminate aorta and superior vena cava because those don't connect the lungs and the heart, because we have these different sections, right, in the organs of the cardiovascular system. We've got the stuff, the vessels that go to and from the whole body, like from the heart to and from the whole body. And then we have the vessels that go from the heart to the lungs and from the lungs to the heart. So I think immediately we can eliminate the aorta and the superior vena cava because those are like whole body vessels, right? Pulmonary is important to me. The term pulmonary, either as vein or artery, are important to me because that pulmonary is referring to between the lungs and the heart. So it's got to be one of those two. But there's a piece in my memory that's like those two are backwards. Blood from the lungs to the heart. And like when I think of, I'm probably going to totally confuse everybody. When I think of the blood going away from the heart, I think of aorta. And when I think of vessels that carry deoxygenated blood from the body to the heart, I think of vein, right? So in this case, from the lungs to the heart, I'm thinking that it's going to be a vein because it's still, it's oxygenated blood. Oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart. Oxygenated blood. Now I'm confused. Let's go ahead and find out what the answer is instead of looking it up, because we'll find out our information. Yeah, pulmonary veins, because I thought it was like tricky. It was like backwards. It carries oxygenated blood from the lungs to the left, from the lungs to the heart. Let me look at that question again. Why was I confused about the heart to the lungs? See, this is what happens. How you miss really easy questions because your brain can disconnect. Maybe it could be, I'm a little bit dyslexic, but our brains can disconnect the question to what's going on. That's how I miss a lot of questions. So from the lungs to the heart, because I think it deoxygenated blood as being veins, right? But anything, what I want to say is anything that's going to the heart, whether it's from the lungs or from the body, it doesn't matter whether or not it's oxygenated, it's going to be a vein. Anything that's going to the lungs is going to be a vein. So a pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood from the lungs to the left atrium of the heart. This is unique because veins typically carry deoxygenated blood, but the pulmonary vein is one exception. So the rule that I want to say is anything that's going to the heart is going to be a vein. Anything that's going away from the heart is going to be an artery. Okay. Which structures, urinary system. Okay. Which structure stores urine before it is excreted from the body? Structure, okay, important information. Structure, urine, excreted. A structure, urine, excreted, okay. So we've got 4 structures that are listed here. A, ureter, B, bladder, C, kidney, or D, urethra. So stores urine. Does the ureter store urine? Does the bladder store urine? Does the kidney store urine? Or does the urethra store urine? Okay, so what does the ureter do? I believe the ureter is the hole where the pee comes out. I believe the bladder is a storage thing. It's a storage organ. The kidney is not a storage organ. It is a filtering organ. And the urethra is the tube where the pee comes out. So I'm gonna go with B, bladder. We're getting out of our C pattern here. B, bladder. So urethra is the pee-pee hole, right? The bladder is the storage organ. Moving on up, I use my cursor here. Urethra is the pee-pee hole. Bladder is the storage organ. Ureter is the pee-pee tube, right? And then the kidney is where the filtering happens, all right? Moving on, skeletal system, all right? Which facial bone is known as the strongest and largest bone of the face, forming the lower jaw? Lower jaw. So we can feel our faces when we're working on specific structures in anatomy, and when we're working on our kinesiology, we can use our own body as reference, right? Lower jaw. Oh, that's that bone right there. You can hear my TMJ popping. Ta ta ta. Okay. So our options are A, maxilla, B, mandible, Z, zygomatic bone, or D, nasal bone? So we know that the nasal bone is not on the jaw, so we can eliminate that one. Zygomatic bone, I can't even remember where that is. And then we have the mandible and the maxilla. So I believe that the mandible and maxilla are the bones that make up like the the chompers. So let's see, let's check out what the zygomatic bone is. What is the zygomatic bone? I totally forget. Zygomatic bone. Boop. Oh, it's the one on the side of your face, like next to, right, lateral to your eyes, where you can feel like your temporalis, your temples. There's like a little pocket. The zygomatic bone is right around it, going down into that zygomatic arch, which makes your cheekbone. Okay, I remember. All right, maxilla or mandible? I'm thinking mandible, and that maxilla is on top. All right, you ready? Let's find out. Mandible, yay! Okay, the mandible is the largest and strongest bone of the face, forming the lower jaw and housing the lower teeth. It is the only movable bone of the skull, playing a key role in chewing and speaking. So if you get a question that's asking, what is the only movable bone of the skull? That would be mandible. And I just want to peek real quick to make sure that the maxilla is the top one, the top bone. Maxilla bone. Yep, it's the one that's got your nose hole and attaches to the zygomatic arch right in the middle of your face. It's where your upper teeth attach. Sweet. All right. Well, we're moving right along. Which of the following, respiratory system. Okay, here we go. Which of the following is responsible for inspiration during normal quiet breathing? So let's listen to this question here. Take the important aspects out of the question. Inspiration, right? Inspiration is where you suck the air in. Normal quiet breathing, all right? So if we're like forcing it, if we're forcing our breathing, then that would be forced breathing, right? We're like panting because we're running or something like that. Normal quiet breathing. So the internal and external intercostal muscles do help with breathing. I'm already moving ahead. I need to just read the question, read the answer options that you have. A, external intercostals. B, internal intercostals. C, diaphragm. And D, sternocleidomastoid. So sternocleidomastoid and the intercostals, I know, are really, they activate for assisting with opening up the rib cage if we're out of breath. And we have to force breathing, right? The diaphragm, I believe, is always helping us to breathe, especially when we're breathing correctly. So I'm gonna go ahead and guess diaphragm. Boom. All right, there's a little image right there of what the diaphragm looks like. It attaches to our spine in the back and it attaches to our ribs in the front. And as it contracts, it sucks air down into your lungs. So it contracts and moves down into the abdominal cavity. The diaphragm is the primary muscle of respiration. During quiet breathing, it contracts and moves downward, increasing the volume of the thoracic cavity and allowing air into the lungs. Okay, next question is about the endocrine system. Which gland is responsible for regulating metabolism through the secretion of hormones? All right, so endocrine system is about the hormones, right? So let's take apart the question. Gland, regulating metabolism, secreting hormones. Okay, so our answer options are pituitary gland. That's A, pituitary gland. B, thyroid gland. C, adrenal gland. D, pineal gland. Okay. So there's 4 gland options. right, so since we know that there's 4 gland options, they're all on the table because the first thing we looked at was gland. Regulating metabolism through the secretion of hormones. So let me remember what I know about each one. Thyroid, I believe, has something to do with metabolism because I always hear of like my mother would say, "Oh, I have thyroid issues. That's why I have trouble. I have trouble with my weight because of thyroid issues." So I know that might be an option. Adrenal gland, I know, is all about secreting stress hormones for like when you need to get up and go. So I don't think it's that one. Pineal gland, I can't remember exactly what it does. And pituitary gland, I can't remember what those do. So let's look up pineal and pituitary real quick, just so that we can remember what each of them do. So pineal gland function produces melatonin, which regulates sleep and wakefulness, okay? And then pituitary produces hormones that regulate lots of stuff: growth, metabolism, reproduction, stress response, lactation, water and sodium balance. So people who have pituitary gland dysfunction don't grow very well, and sexual development, including ovulation, okay? So now that we're looking at all these options, this is another one of those situations where we're trying to find the best possible answer. I'm still sticking with thyroid gland. Regulates, look at this, regulates metabolism. No, that wasn't it. So pituitary gland does a lot of things, but the thyroid gland does metabolism specifically. Let's find out if I'm wrong. Okay, so I believe it's either A, pituitary gland, or B, thyroid, but I'm leaning into B. Yay, B, thyroid gland. The thyroid gland regulates metabolism by secreting hormones like thyroxine and triiodothyronine. These hormones influence the body's metabolic rate, energy production, and overall growth and development. Asterisk, so does the pituitary glands, but it doesn't secrete those specific thyroid hormones. How it works: it controls the release of hormones from other glands, which is really important. Produces hormones that travel through the bloodstream. No, it's in the skull. There's all that. So the answer could very well have also been pituitary glands, but I think that the thyroid gland is like the most famous. Reproductive system. Which of the following structures is the site of fertilization in the female reproductive system? So let's look at the information we've been given. Structure, site of fertilization, female reproductive system. So let's look at our options. A, ovary. B, uterus. C, fallopian tube. Or D, cervix. Okay, so I mean, I know a few things about female reproductive systems because I have one. But let's pick this apart and see, because I've had a few kids, I kind of know what the answer is for this. But the ovaries is not a site of fertilization, right? That's where the eggs are produced. Okay. Uterus is where the embryo grows into a fetus, right? That's like the womb that holds the baby. The fallopian tube is the tube where the egg goes down to travel to the uterus. And then the cervix is the opening at the top of the vagina. When it becomes clogged, that's what prevents stuff from coming out. It closes up in fertilization so that the womb can grow the baby. So in the process of sexual reproduction, the sperm travels from the vagina up through the uterus, which is not full. It's like it's shrunk down like a little floppy tube, and then it travels up to the fallopian tube where it bonks into the sperm bonks into the egg, and that's where fertilization happens, is in the fallopian tube. And then the fertilized egg will settle down into the lining of the uterus, which starts the process of the hormonal changes. So fallopian tube. Fertilization typically occurs in the fallopian tube where a sperm cell meets an ovum, egg, after ovulation. So in this image, for those of you who are watching the video, we got the ovaries where the egg comes out, and then it travels up the fallopian tube, and there's a little blown up image of where the egg is traveling down the tube, and the sperm goes up through the cervix, past the cervix, up through the uterus, and travels up, and it's like boop, and it runs into the egg, and then the fertilized egg finishes its travel and embeds in the lining of the uterus. Okay, next question, we're going to look at the sensory system. Which structure in the eye is responsible for focusing light into the retina? So we're looking at how we see stuff with our eyes. Which structure in the eye is responsible for focusing light into the retina? So we're looking at eyes, the structure in the eye, focusing light into the retina. So if there's a structure that focuses light into the retina, it's got to be something in there. Okay, A, cornea, B, lens, C, retina, and D, optic nerve. So let's see. I know that, going down to the bottom, the optic nerve is the information highway of everything that the eye senses between like the eye and the brain, right? So I don't think it could be optic nerve that focuses light into the retina. C, I don't think it's the retina because we're looking for something that focuses light into the retina. B is the lens, which like a lens is like, we think of our glasses as being a lens, right? Or a magnifying glass as being a lens. It helps to focus. And then we've got the cornea. What does the cornea do? Cornea function. Protection and focus. Ooh. So it protects the eye and it bends light rays to help them focus on the retina, which is responsible for converting light into electrical signals that your brain interprets as images. What about lens function? So we can see those subtle differences. It focuses light into the retina. So they both focus light into the retina. Which could it be? Which could it be? So we're gonna have to make a really good guess. It's either the cornea or the lens. I'm thinking lens because it's this like the simplest answer, right? The cornea also protects the eye. Let's just go ahead and find out. Boop. Lens. That's the answer that was chosen. The lens adjusts its shape to focus light into the retina, enabling clear vision at different distances. All right. Excuse me, hiccups. So there's the optic nerve coming out from the eye. And where's the retina? The retina is the place where the information gets processed, all right? And then the cornea is the protective outside, and the lens is the little bubble between the retina and the cornea. Number 12, energetic anatomy. All right. In energetic anatomy, which chakra is associated with grounding and survival? So we've got 4 options for our answers. Grounding and survival is what we're looking for, right? Grounding, which means like toward the bottom, all right? Sacral chakra, A is sacral chakra, B is solar plexus chakra, C is root chakra, and D is heart chakra. So we can figure out quite a bit from just the wording, the names of the answers. Sacral, which is like in our sacrum, which is not quite, the chakras are lined up, so they're like going from your underside, like where your sex organs are, all the way up to the top of your head, right? So the sacrum chakra is like kind of where your back is, where your sacrum is, right? Not quite all the way down where your reproductive organs are, all the way at the base where your sits bones are, basically. It's not quite that far down, it's a little bit higher up. And then solar plexus, which is in our abdomen, kind of like up toward our stomach. And then the heart chakra, that's D, heart chakra, is way up where our heart is. But the root chakra is all the way at the very, very bottom. So I'm going to say C, root chakra. That's the one that makes the most sense to me. All of these chakras that are listed, none of these are made up. There are no made up names in this one. So root chakra, which is the very bottom, located at the base of the spine, is associated with grounding, survival, and basic needs. It connects individuals to the physical world and provides a sense of stability and security. In the chakra system, all of the chakras are important, and they need to be clear and healthy in order for all of the rest of the chakras to be functioning well. And now we have tissue damage and repair. So which phase of tissue repair is characterized by the formation of granulation tissue and the proliferation of fibroblasts? I'm gonna ask this question again. Which phase of tissue repair is characterized by the formation of granulation tissue and the proliferation of fibroblasts? The inflammatory phase, A, the inflammatory phase, B, proliferative phase, C, remodeling phase, or D, hemostasis phase. Okay, so there are 3 phases of tissue repair. That's something that I do know. And they are the inflammatory phase, the proliferative phase, and the remodeling phase. Those are 3 things that I know. Formation of granulation tissue and the proliferation of fibroblasts. Okay, so I believe the inflammatory phase, which is the A option, is the first one. I believe that the proliferative phase is when, look at that, proliferation phase, proliferative phase, and proliferation of fibroblasts. That kind of goes together, doesn't it? The remodeling, that's the one in the middle, when you go from the body creating an inflammatory state and like throwing in all those red blood cells, and the white blood cells come in and try to kill the germs, and like everything's just like lit up because the bloods and the oxygen are circulating through, trying to flush everything out. The middle phase is where things are starting to like settle down and be rebuilt, and then the remodeling phase is where it's going to like long-term, everything, the structure of everything that's being rebuilt after tissue damage is going to like long-term, what it's going to look like. And that's why, like, as body workers and therapists, we like try to reorganize the collagen fibers to be in the direction that we want them to be. And then hemostasis, that has to do with clotting blood. That doesn't have anything to do with, I mean, it does have something to do with tissue damage, but it's specifically for clotting blood and not for like muscle or ligament rebuilding. So I'm guessing proliferative because here's proliferation, and sometimes you just have to go with that. It's like, here's your clue to make things a little bit easier. Okay, proliferative phase is the answer. So let me read this explanation. The proliferative phase involves the formation of granulation tissue, angiogenesis, and the activity of fibroblasts, which produce collagen to rebuild the extracellular matrix. This phase follows the inflammatory phase, where the body removes debris and fights infection, and precedes the remodeling phase, during which collagen is reorganized to strengthen the tissue. The hemostasis phase occurs immediately after injury to stop bleeding. So that's a little bit different than, so let's see. Oh, that is so blurry. Oh my God. So the first one is bleeding and hemostasis, right? I'm circling that. That's the first phase, if there's bleeding, right? The third, or the second phase, or first phase of the actual like tissue repair is the inflammatory phase. That's where it's highlighted in red because like your tissue becomes red and inflamed. It's getting flushed out. And then you've got the proliferative phase, formation of granulation tissue, activity of fibroblasts. So everything's just trying to it produces collagen to rebuild everything. So everything's still fragile. And that's when you need to be really careful as a therapist to not mess with it too much, because the matrix of the tissue is still very, very weak and fragile. And then the remodeling phase is when the collagen is starting to strengthen the tissue, and that's when you want to gently, carefully try to shift the tissue so that it is working the way that it's supposed to. The collagen fibers are aligned the way that they're supposed to be. That's it. We got through all 13. Great job, everybody, going through all those questions with me. That was fun. We learned a lot. I hope that you were able to take care of some stuff that you wanted to do while you were listening, or if you were watching, you were taking notes. So now you know about the kinds of questions that the MBLEx is going to be giving you. So I want you to know about some free resources that are in the description of my videos or my podcast. I have a free study guide, and I have a free 100 question practice test. And check out the other videos on my channel. Let's see, let's get over to my link tree real quick. I just want you to see my options here. This is my email. If you want to send me a message, complain about how wrong I am about stuff, you can go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to put my secret password in here. Give it just a second. There I am. No, don't save it. Okay, this is what. No, thank you, cookies. It's gonna let me view this. Okay, well, this is what my link tree looks like right here. Free 100 questions practice. So it's a printable, check it out, printable practice test with 100 questions. You just put your email address in there, and it sends to you. And then we also have the study guide. Put your email address in there and I'll send it to you. So there's that. And let's see. Share. And come on now. Why can't I get the full page? Let's see. Won't let me slide down. Okay. Well, anyway, so I'm at Linktree, MBLEx Prep with Michele. You can find those things down in the description. I guess we're done for today. And thank you so much for being here with me. Let's see, let me check. Do I have any more slides? Nope, that was it. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for being here with me, and I hope you learned a lot. And check out my future videos and subscribe, all that stuff. Good luck with your test. I know you're going to do great. It's actually not that big of a deal. Catch you later.